Hey everybody, good morning from the One Bass US Open 2019 edition. We've got Bill Egan in the house for one segment this morning. Bill is the man with the master plan, the man that brings it all together, as Mark says. Makes everything happen.
Man that makes things happen.
The man that makes things happen, and he's going to go make some stuff happen, but he drove all the way back from the lake this morning just to spend the first segment with us.
Yep. Drove all the way back to the hotel because, when you run tournaments, things happen. You got to take care of them. And one of the things happened was when I woke up this morning to go out to the lake, I had 9 pounds of air pressure in one of my tires, which made it for a fun drive out to the lake and flagged down this flatbed truck and had him fill some air in my tire, and I made it. We had a flawless launch this morning with 254 boats. Everybody was in the water. If you saw it on our Facebook page, Paul Leibowitz is out there, our photographer. He did a post on Facebook of the launch as I was calling out boats. It was beautiful. The moon was out.
The harvest moon.
Harvest moon, yeah. Which Aaron last night was like, hey, the moon's gonna cause some problems here. And I was hanging out with him and a couple other guys up on the deck last night, and we actually I filmed Aaron tying some knots, and he was in his own zone last night. But everything went off fabulously this morning, other than my tire issue, and unfortunately I wasn't able to get on the water because I had to get the tire fixed so that I can get back and forth to the weigh-in. So tomorrow I'll be on the water, hopefully getting you guys some live coverage with Skype and stuff, and from Overton and some of the places that do have cellular connection out there. But so far everything is A-okay.
We have no updates for you because obviously we don't know where everybody went. We won't have any on the water stuff for you today, is what Billy's saying. But we're going to go over the conditions. We're going to go over, kind of set everything up and get ready for weigh-in. We're going to work on a couple of call-ins too. I know James Niggemeyer, who's fished this tournament several times. But we'll get some call-ins. We'll get some information on what people can expect from the U.S. Open, and we'll spend some time chatting. We'll get Dave on the instant feedback, and we can just ask some questions. You guys can ask questions about the format and stuff like that. But Bill, overall, what Dave is sign languaging.
You need it?
He needs the computer.
There you go.
Do you understand?
Welcome to the 2019 One Bass US Open, sponsored by Basscat Mercury.
Only chaos for the week, right here.
Right here.
This
one. Well, we don't have the typical weather issues this year.
No.
There's no wind. Literally out there this morning at the launch, the flag was laying on the pole because there was not a breath of wind out there. It was beautiful. The temperature was probably 65, 68, not too chilly. It's obviously, going to be nice out there today, and these guys were able to rock and roll this morning at launch because it was glass.
So where did you see the majority of the field go?
I would have to say about 75 to 80% of the field went up through the Narrows to get as far out as they could, Overton, Echo Bay, and those type of places. There are some guys that are banking on the wash. Been hearing a lot of stuff being, guys catching fish in the wash. Which is
where it was won last year.
Mm-hmm. So it's anybody's guess, but this is a big lake. Obviously the working marinas are off limits, but there's a lot of water out there to fish.
The interesting thing this time of the year when you're looking at the weather conditions is there's so many times that you kind of have to look and say, where can I get to because of the weather? And as a result, I think the farthest we've seen in the 7 years previous to this that we've seen a guy win at a distance was Greg's Basin. And that was the second year we were doing this.
Right.
There's been so many conditions where I think most of the time it's been from the Overton in the last several years. You've seen a little bit from Temple Bar play. But the wash, and I'm wondering if this year somebody with the weather the way that it is, they may take a little bit gamble and
stay down in the wash for most of the time?
No, maybe make a longer run because,
gotcha.
Maybe go up the Colorado River a little bit more because they don't have to worry about, can I get back?
Can I get back in time with the winds or weather issues? Yeah. And
you kind of wonder if that kind of thing plays,
Again, I never look at the weather because I don't want to jinx myself or jinx, the situation. But so far, so good. I mean, looking out the windows right now, the palm trees aren't moving at all. It's blue skies. Very, very scattered clouds, and everybody was in such great spirits this morning after we did the national anthem and announced the start of the tournament, and just smiles. Lots of guys with good energy going out there and seeing what they can do, and knowing that at this point, I mean, I figure 37th anniversary U.S. Open. We've only had to cancel one day in 36 years, so I got another 30 years until I have to. 2 days? Oh yeah, that's right. 9/11, right? Yep, 9/11. Forgot about that. There's been 2 days in 36 years.
True.
So, but glad the guys are out there. The conditions should be perfect. With the cold snap that we had recently, it might have taken those fish into a fall mode where they're going to start eating. This morning when we were walking back the long dock from Colville Bay, there was a school of shad probably 300 yards wide. They were all about this big, and Paul and I were walking and looking at the fish dimpling, and you could see them schooling because the water's so clear, and then all of a sudden mayhem started. I took my camera out, and the stripers were just busting out, and birds, and it looked like you're out in the middle of a tuna bite going on. It was awesome.
Talked to Zaldane yesterday when we were doing our pregame stuff from Sponsor Row, and he talked about seeing a lot of young year class bass, last year spawn, this year spawn that were out there. Seems like the lake's in real healthy position right now.
The water level is about the same as it has been for the last couple of years. It's up a little bit,
just slightly
up, but so anybody that's been fishing the last couple of years, the conditions of the lake are really similar.
So your thoughts, tell me what you think it's going to take to win this tournament, weight wise, and then let's go into kind of techniques a little bit as to what you think is going to play.
Well, I would have to say somewhere around 12 pounds a day is to be consistent with 12 pounds a day is going to probably be pretty safe to possibly sit there on the podium at the end of the day. Now, there's some guys that are saying, hey, I was catching 17 pounds and this and that, but the conditions have changed, and when tournament time comes on and those decisions have to be made, sometimes things don't come together like they were in practice when there was no pressure.
I see 17 pounds a day in spring.
Right. Well, we had Bobby Lanham a couple of years ago that brought in that almost 17-pound bag on day 3.
But it was one.
Mm-hmm.
One day. He didn't do well.
And Clifford Perch had a good bag.
Another 15-pound bag with Clifford.
We were actually talking, with the release boat situation. We have 2 release boats here, and courtesy of one of the release boats is from Wild West. We thank them for helping us out here. The other one comes up from Havasu from John Galbraith out there. And, we're talking about capacity and how many fish. And I said, you know what, guys, we're really, this is a mute discussion because I don't know how many of these guys are actually going to bring 5 fish into the
You think it's going to be that tough?
I think it's going to be tough because, the smaller fish are going to be biting like crazy, and they have to find a fish over 13 inches to bring in to weigh in. I think it's going to be tough to find 5 fish in this conditions, at least the first day of this weather pattern that's turned around. But
because it was windy.
It was windy
Saturday, right?
Yeah, Thursday was really windy. Friday was really windy. Saturday had some breeze and some cloud, but it's flat now.
Post front.
Yeah, and so, but the good thing is the fish are used to this. They're used to sunny blue skies.
Yeah.
So they may get back into their normal transitions and start eating. But you got the striper to deal with. You've got small fish to deal with. Lake meat is synonymous for small fish, but there is that 5.7 plus pound smallmouth swimming out there in that lake that is worth $50,000. I was talking to a couple people. They're like, hey, if I catch that fish, I'm coming in at 11 o'clock. You know that. And I'm like, well, I would too. But there is the Bridge for $50,000 fish out there. There's some awesome things involved with this event. We have our Costa contingency program if they wear their stuff across the stage. Lots of great sponsor support. And, selling this event out in June, it really made the industry turn their head real quick. That we sold it out that fast with 256 spots, and we increased our payout to what it is by reallocating those funds to the first place check.
So
payout's going to be a $100,000 check to first place, plus a brand new Bass Cat Puma FTD with Mercury 250 worth $64,000. So without any of the options or the big stringer money or any of the other possibilities of getting money, he's going to be walking with 164 right out the door, which is pretty awesome. Because in years past, for many years, and I did the research, I called a lot of the guys that fished the very first one, Klein, and all those guys, and it's always been a $50,000 tournament. I mean, the very, very first tournament was only $50,000 because there wasn't a boat sponsor and all that stuff. So it's been $50,000 for 36 years, and instead of taking that extra allocated money, because we have over, our payouts are based on 150 boats. Thankfully, we've been getting over 200 boats for the last few years, but now with 254, I took a look at the numbers and I'm like, wow, that's a chunk of money. Why don't we do something different with it this year?
Yeah, and it would have been, honestly, to give credit to One and to you and to Bob and Chuck and everybody there at Western Outdoor Nerds, that would have been a great opportunity to make a lot of money. But it's the commitment to the angler to give the money, because honestly, we could put all this stuff here, and if anybody if no one showed up, we don't have a tournament.
Right.
I mean, to do this with 60, 70, 80 boats doesn't work. The anglers make this thing an event, and to give it back, I mean, I commend One Bass for doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we basically took the funds that were generated by the additional 150 or 100 boats, and instead of doing what we've done in the past, which is take that dollar amount and divided it evenly between first place and 50th place, which is nice. Guys like it, but to me and to some of the people at the office and other people, when you look at that $53,000 check, it wasn't real special. It didn't stand out enough to me. And so when we looked at it and we had the money, I'm like, well, why don't we put half of it on first place, which will give them $100,000, and spread the rest between second and 50th place. So everybody's getting a little bit of it, and one guy's getting a lot of it because everybody fishes this to win it.
Yep.
Nobody fishes for second.
No, it's a bucket list tournament for a lot of people across the country, and it's great to see some of the Western guys that have fished it in the past come back. I mean, I know I spoke to Ish a couple weeks ago, and it was the $164,000 that got him here. But then at the same time, it's the U.S. Open. It is our Super Bowl. It's our classic. It's what we fished for growing up, and it's something we wanted to do, so he's happy to be back.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Mike McClellan's here. He fished it very first time. I think he was 16 years old in 86 or something like that, and now he's back, and it's pretty cool to see him and some of these other guys from MLF and Elite joining us, and with all of our average Joe pros out here, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a great group of guys. I mean, I spoke to Mark Copley from Lose and Strike King yesterday, and this was his first experience with the U.S. Open, and he was amazed at just how grateful everybody was about getting a bag of bait, and
through Sponsors Row, right?
Yeah, through Sponsors Row, and then of course he says, "Oh my gosh, do you guys have fisherman rabbits out there? Because they just keep coming," and it's like they're making them as they, But he was just thrilled. He loved meeting everybody. Everybody was really grateful, and that's the fishermen out here in this tournament. Fishermen can be fishermen, but this tournament, it's a goodwill event along with being the biggest event in the West.
Yeah. It was awesome to have Rick Pierce out here yesterday. He flew out, hung out with us. He did a speech for everybody at the partner pairing meeting, and to have his support and to have another 2-year agreement already set and signed for 2020 and 2021 is a lot of relief for us, because it allows us to focus more on the future, not really worry about that sponsorship spot that we've got, Basscat, and their loyalty with us and support is just amazing.
Well,
and Mercury too, with Michelle Kilborn. They've always been with us, and we couldn't do it without them.
Well, we went over yesterday on the pregame show, and not everybody may have gotten to tune into that on a Sunday afternoon.
With football going on.
And church and everything else. Tell a little bit about what's developed out of the Basscat partnership and the One Bass U.S. Open and the events. Tell everybody what you've kind of been able to build with Life Source Water Systems as well.
Well, we've been able to garner some great sponsors. Obviously, back in 2012-13, there was a shift in the tournament industry out here and the sponsors and the economy, and we got the signal from a few sponsors that the same old teams and the Pro-Ams and the U.S. Open was fun and cool, but it was kind of passé, and they wanted bigger, better events. So we at that time, I think it was we've done the California Open 8 years now, so 7 years. I think this is our 7th. Yeah, about 7 or 8 years ago, we all collectively at the company got together and said, well, if the sponsors want bigger events, then we need to, rebrand ourselves. We got to figure this out. So we took the U.S. Open model, and we created the California Open at Clear Lake because we wanted to present the same type of event we do here in Nevada for California and for the California anglers, both north and south, with the exact same format, shared weight format, good payouts, good sponsor incentives, a boat and motor given away, which is a Puma FTD there. And so we did that for about 7 years. And then when Basscat came on, with Basscat and Mercury's backing, we were able to garnish another open event at Lake Havasu last year. We had our first Arizona Open, so now we have a California Open, an Arizona Open, the U.S. Open, which is a Nevada Open, if you will, and create 3 events for our guys. And once we were able to do that, it opened the door to bring back the old Cup standings, the point race situation, because
used to be the Daiwa Cup.
Used to be the Daiwa Cup, and Jay Wright, who's one of the pros that fishes this, he and his sister and family own Life Source Water Systems. They're, the canisters you put in your garage to get soft water and stuff. Unbelievable guy. He came to me and said, hey, well, now that you got 3 events, I want to bring the Daiwa Cup, and I'm going to give you guys $10,000 to give away to the Angler of the Year in Life Source name. And I said, rock on, because that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted to build a incentive for the guys to fish all 3 with a points race and an AOI Cup, courtesy of them. Bridgeford Foods got involved with the U.S. Open, as they always have, to do the live broadcast, and so did Life Source this year. We've had a great run with Costa, and Costa's still involved with the tournament. We love their support, but they had some changes going on, and it left an opportunity, and Bridgeford and Life Source jumped on it for the live broadcast, and we can't thank them enough for continuing it with us. And so we have the 3 events, and Arizona, well, the unique thing with Juan Bass is because we run our events during the week, the California Open and the Arizona Open are on Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. So it allows guys to only take 1 week off work to go attend those tournaments. This one's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which in California and Arizona, it's mostly affecting California. You don't have to go through the DFG permitting process with all the other organizations that fight for weekends, which allows us to do what nobody else can do. Is we've already put out event dates for 3 years from now, because we don't have to deal with the permit situations. Nobody's fighting us for those particular days. And because of the growth of the events, the other organizations, which we're very happy about because we all support each other, give us the respect to allow us to keep those dates conflict free, because we all know that if we hurt one, the other one's going to hurt too. It's not a copacetic situation. So 10 years ago when I started, that was the biggest thing that Rick Grover and a lot of the guys said, is if you guys can figure out how to work together, we could all make this work. And I think we're at that point now with
starting to get
the people that are in the field. There's obviously some changes going on with FLW, with the purchase with MLF, a lot of kind of uncertainty going on there, which is, obviously, with something new happening, that's always expected. We hope the best for them. They're a great organization as well. A lot of the guys fish us that fish them, and we have something that we're promoting for if you're out there, if you're a bass guy, if you're on the West Coast and you want to fish the California Open, the Arizona Open, or the U.S. Open. If you go to our website, wombass.com, you'll see there's a shopping cart there that you can go put deposits down for next year. But if you do it before December 31st, last day of this year, and put a deposit down for all three events, or at least the Arizona Open, the California Open, we've got some Yozuri prizes, some Lowrance prizes, some things that they can qualify, and we're calling it hashtag Juan Bass, all three for me 2020. So check that out. It'll take you right to the links to sign up for all three events for 2020 so that you can get in the points race. And we are limiting the Arizona Open and the California Open to 150 boats only. And the U.S. Open will once again be 250 boat max. So once those spots are taken, they're taken.
That kind of got us this year here.
Didn't it?
Zing!
June came up so fast, it was crazy.
Well, give them the schedule for those three events real quick.
So real quick, let's see. For 2020, the Arizona Open is going to be February 5th, 6th, and 7th with practice the 4 days prior to that. The California Open at Clear Lake is April 8th, 9th, and 10th next year. And the U.S. Open, I believe, is the 12th, 13th, 14th next year. If you want to check the website or Facebook for the actual dates, I know the first two are dead on, but
so it's officially unofficial.
Yeah, I got a lot in my little noggin up there that I'm trying to keep track of, but they're up on our website. Also, if you're watching this, we have a great Facebook page, but if you want to be in tune with exactly what's going on with all of our events, any of the sponsor information and contingency programs, itineraries, join our Juan Bass Tournament Anglers group on Facebook. You'll immediately be updated as we post things with all of the updated stuff coming on. So take a look at that. We appreciate you watching. I'm going to go get some things organized. We're going to take a little commercial break. Dan, Mark, Dave, thanks, guys. I'm going to run.
We're going to check in with you a little bit when you get out there. You can give us a lowdown on some weather conditions and stuff like that, but we'll talk fishing
with
Dave when we come back.
The 2020 Cougar FTD Special Package is built to run and priced to win. Competition-ready package comes fully with proven accessories waiting for your personal touch when picking custom colors. Starting at the bow, the 2020 Cougar FTD SP comes rigged with a 45-inch Minn Kota Ultrex, Humminbird Helix Mega DI, a keel guard, and a padded front deck. Plenty of storage in the lighted boxes and space for you and your partner are part of the Cougar's full team deck and is a platform of choice for top-level pros like Mike Iaconelli.
That's a 10-pounder. We staying.
A Humminbird Helix 9 Mega SI unit centers the console, loaded with a regional Lakemaster card of your choice and surrounded by the interactive digital switch panel that includes a built-in security system. Tilt helm and Teleflex steering also come as part of this package. The super deep LED lighted triangular live wells ensure plenty of space for the biggest bag, and the ample rear deck includes dual storage boxes, a Minn Kota 3-bank charger, removable rear deck lids for ease of access, and a stainless steel boarding ladder. Powered by the new V8 Mercury 250 Pro XS 4-stroke mounted on an 8-inch R&R jack plate, the Cougar FTD Special Package also comes equipped with twin 8-foot power poles, resting on a tandem axle trailer that comes loaded with features like a swing-away tongue, grab post, and IMCO tie-downs, plus dual axle brakes. The Cougar FTD Special Package also lets you choose your rims from Prowler or Stalker to complement your style. If you're in the market for a turnkey, competition-ready combo that's second to none in performance, build, and warranty, look no further than the 2020 Cougar FTD Special Package.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks.
Why?
Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
there's nothing like bass fishing. The strike, the bite, the fight. It's my passion. It's what I do. Bass fishing is not a team sport. You better be mentally tough. Success or failure, it's all on you. Focus on the variables you can control and don't worry about the ones you can't. I'm always striving for perfection. Everything I use has to perform at the top level because that's what I demand. It's all about the attitude. Put me under pressure, that's when I'm going to perform. Every day on the water, my goal is to be the best.
Don't fritter away your time. Create. Act. Take a place wherever you are and be somebody. Get action.
All right, everybody, we're back. We had the legend Bill Egan in the studio for a minute.
That is a big seat to fill.
I know. I'm not gonna. Is that a fat joke, Dave?
Hey, no, you digging the tunes? You guys liking the tunes? Their hands are rocking, man.
I'm feeling like you busted out some Flea from the Chili Peppers for me.
Kind of apropos. West Coast.
Yeah, absolutely. Under the bridge.
Let's not even go there.
Oh
man, good to be back.
Yeah, it is. You know, honestly, one of my favorite weeks of the year to get to hang out with you guys, cover one of the coolest tournaments in the world. Would love to have Billy out there today doing some on the water stuff. He decided this year that he, you know, and I get it. It rather than having to go out there, take care of takeoff, run back here to get on the air, and then have to run back out there for setup and everything like that. He decided to do it this year where I would come in studio and then he could just stay out there and kill some time and save some time, I mean, and it didn't work out this morning.
Yeah, for those of you who have joined us in previous years, typically Dano is out on the water, puts in there at Colville Bay, and attempts to track down these guys.
It's big
and
out there.
Get somewhere where we have a cell signal to give you guys some updates. That role was reversed this year. Billy Egan thought it would be very beneficial for him to stay out at the lake. That did not work out on day one, as you heard in the previous segment.
Yep.
Hopefully day 2 and day 3, which will be fine because, you know, we'll kind of see how things shake out.
Yeah,
we'll know, you know, who's kind of leading, who's in the mix.
Where they're fishing.
Maybe have Billy track those guys down. But that didn't work out today, so you have Dano and myself. We are going to talk all things U.S. Open.
All things fishing Lake
All
Mead.
things fishing Lake Mead. Anything else you guys want to talk about? The hotline is open, so I'm going to post the number. It is 405-253-5543. We are taking callers. Anybody want to call in? ask a question, have some comments about the U.S. Open. We'll be glad to take your calls. I'm going to post that on the instant feedback now, but it is 405-253-5543.
And I think I'll text him here in a little bit, but we'll get a FLW Tour Pro guy that's fished this U.S. Open several times, James Niggemeyer. We'll get him to call in and talk about Lake Mead. But, Dave, it's, Billy talked about it. Practice was some of the most extreme wind conditions that we've seen. And we do see it from time to time out here at Lake Mead, and now it's completely slick.
Well, it depends on what practice you were talking about. If it was Aaron Martin's practice, he's been here for 2 weeks. So
yes, that's
2
true.
weeks ago, it probably wasn't that bad. But no, I don't think
he had enough time to do his tackle in 2 weeks.
I saw an interview with him yesterday, and he said, he's like, man, I practiced too long. No, I didn't practice too long. I think I practiced too long. The last time I practiced this long, I had a horrible tournament. But that was like 10 years ago, so we'll see. Aaron, obviously, always a favorite when he gets the opportunity to fish this event. Could make it the only 4-time U.S. Open champion. A lot of guys with 3. Nobody with 4. There's some guys in the field that have the opportunity to get that done. Clifford Perch.
Yep.
Aaron Martins.
Yep.
Is Folkstead fishing?
No.
Okay, so Clifford Perch, Aaron Martins.
Yeah, and you got Murray's in the field, so he could become another one of the 3 gang.
Yeah.
He still, he came out from Tennessee, Spring City, where he lives now. He sold his boat out here. He's going to make a delivery after the tournament's over. But he actually goes out. Interesting thing about John, at least one day during his practice period, he sleeps on his boat on the lake. Spends the night out there so that he can get acclimated.
That's kind of Rick Clunish.
Well, it's John.
Yeah.
And
is this always been a thing for him?
Yeah, at least one day. Sometimes I know he's done it 2.
First time I've ever heard that. That's pretty interesting.
But he brings a heavy sleeping bag, and he sleeps on the boat. That way he feels like he's completely acclimated. He's in tune with the lake at that point. And then he gets longer practice period in for that day, and he gets to see it right from the beginning of the morning, because the sun's going to wake you up at the moment it cracks. So John loves this tournament, and I'm sure he'd love to become one of the 3 club there. What boat number did he get this? There he is right there, 247. Ooh, gets a long day of fishing.
247 with AAA Damon Witt. So going to be a good day for Damon Witt.
I know Damon Witt from Northern California, if that's the Damon Witt. Damon's fished a few pro tournaments himself from the front end of the boat. And I think he actually works at Bass Pro Shops in Rockland, California, if it's that same Damon Witt. But
how ironic is that, man? Boat number 1, Joe Uribe Jr. Is that a foreshadowing of things to come, maybe?
I could.
He's always seems like he's in the mix.
Yeah, he has turned into an absolute hammer. I mean, just a crusher. Joe's a strong fisherman. He's won the Costa Series Angler of the Year, twice?
I believe
out
so,
here.
yeah.
Several tournament wins in the Costas.
Several Costa Western Division
I know he'd love to add this title to his little shelf that he's got at his house, I'm sure.
Yeah, just kind of going down the line here. Billy
Peepaw.
mentioned him in the first segment. Peepaw, boat number 20, Mike McClellan. Interesting fact about that, which a lot of people may not know. The One Bass U.S. Open was Mike McClellan's first professional event. So he is returning to the scene of a very intricate part of his career and his life, and really excited about it. Talked to him, at length about it coming out here, and Mike's really excited about it. He was, if you follow Mike on social media, he was posting some pictures. Had a few doubles. So hey man. Everybody always thinks finesse when it's the U.S. Open, but year after year after year, that is always proven wrong, and it tends to be sometimes a mix of power fishing and finesse, but it seems lately, man, just more power fishing.
Well, yeah, but, okay, take this year. I really think this thing could be, a guy could catch a few on top. I think he might be able to catch a few in the middle water column with a jerkbait or a crankbait, but then he's still going to probably have to go into the bottom with a jig or a drop shot rig or something like that. I think the conditions, especially that they slicked off, and as Aaron pointed out yesterday with the harvest moon, it's the worst moon you could ever do. Who scheduled this thing?
Harvest moon.
He stopped in yesterday because he was looking for somebody, and he and Leslie were in here. Mark, how long did he talk about that? Oh, it was the harvest moon. I mean, it dominated.
10 minutes?
Yeah, it dominated the conversation.
Yeah.
So obviously Aaron's very in tune to what's going on with the harvest moon. I don't know if he's, got crops back home or something that he's trying to cultivate, but
yeah.
But anyway, I think it could be one of those things where top to bottom this thing has a chance on just about anything, and someone that wins may be doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, Ish Monroe in the field this year. You guys talked about him coming back.
Yeah, he told me
been a while.
He's got he says I've got 8 or 9 rods on the boat, and one of them is a frog. Imagine that. So
Ish a guy who, I mean, obviously can do everything. He's fished all over the country and a very well seasoned professional, but not a big fan of the spinning rod and light line tactics unless he just absolutely has to break it out.
Yeah, it's kind of been his MO over the years, but got to do it here. But that's why you have co-anglers.
That's true.
Triple A's.
And for you guys just joining us and maybe not so familiar with the format, unique format here at the One Bass U.S. Open, the AAA and the boater work together for a combined weight.
Yeah, I've fished a lot of these events. Not the U.S. Open myself, but I fished a lot of these style events. It's how we cut our teeth out here when you start fishing pro tournaments. And you get randomly paired with a pro for the day, or I should say they get randomly paired with you, and you go out fishing for the day. He tells you, this is what I want you to do. Feel free to come up on the front deck of the boat, and then you each fish as a team for the day. So I guess we've got a caller.
We do have a caller. Let's see here. Hey, who is this? Hello? Hang on. Hey, who is this?
This is Todd Dunlap.
Hey, Todd, how are you?
What's going on, Todd?
Not bad. What's going on, guys?
Nothing much, man. You're blowing up our instant feedback. You might as well give us a call. Get your thoughts. Let everybody hear what you're looking forward to most about this U.S. Open.
Oh, I wish I was there. I'm so excited for these guys. It sounds like it's going to be an interesting tournament this year.
Yeah, Todd, what are your thoughts on the payout? I mean, obviously, One Bass, Billy, the whole crew, and all the sponsors stepping it up big time this year. $100,000 check and a fully rigged bass cat boat going to the winner. I mean, that's a big deal.
Oh man, this is incredible. What Billy and Rick and everybody else has done for our industry is impressive.
Oh, hey, you got your computer turned up in the background? You might want to turn that down, Todd.
Yeah, I had to go get something, but yeah, I'm so excited for what's going on in the industry for us anglers. Really wish I could be there this year to enjoy this. Next year I'll be back, and I wish everybody a safe and exciting tournament.
So, Todd, as somebody who has fished this before and probably very familiar with a lot of guys that are fishing it, have you talked to any of the guys this week about their pre-fish?
No, not actually not. You know how it is. Just try to let them do their thing, and you know as well as I do how mead will play out. Like Danny was saying, I'm sure there's going to be some topwater fish, and maybe some of these spy baiting guys can get some, and there's going to be some good jig and some drop shot fish. I'm really excited to see if someone's going to break that Smalley record. I wish it was going to be me this year, but next year.
That's an interesting comment about the spy baiting. Is that something that is starting to play a bigger role on mead and these western lakes, clear lakes like this?
I think. Yeah, I truly believe so. You know how things go. They go in circles, and with the spy baiting now, people like Dave. There's a lot of people out there who are taking advantage of that tool now.
Well, Swinseed's in the field, right? David Swinseed, I think he's fishing
exactly.
it.
Matter of fact, I think he's fishing with Aaron today, isn't he?
Oh, no way.
I know. Could you imagine that?
No, I can't imagine it.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I think I heard from Carol something
find
about
him now.
Dave. Yeah.
Can you search? There it is, right there. No, he's with Wade Strelick.
Oh, Wade. Yes. Boy, that's going to be a good team up right there.
Well, you can guarantee you that Swinseed's got about 10 of those things tied on.
You know it.
Hey man, he's the one that brought it to our attention. So
last year he sent me a bunch of them to check out, and I actually I had a couple days out in the Oregon lakes, and I think I put 3 smallies over 5 pounds on with a few of those dual reals spy baits.
Yeah, I think you're if you were out here and you were AAA and you put 3 5-pound smallies in the boat, I think your boater would be pretty happy with you.
I think he'd be kissing you.
Yeah, you think so?
I think he'd be kissing you.
You guys are doing a great job, man. I wish I was there to rock you guys on with everything. I'm in California right now, just watching your great broadcast, man.
Well, we appreciate you calling in and checking out the coverage. Weigh-ins will start approximately 2 p.m.-ish from Colville Bay all 3 days. We're going to live stream the weigh-in, have a leaderboard. You'll get up to date, on everybody that weighs in fish. I mean, including, I think Billy was saying the way they have it set up this year is going to probably be able to have a lot of the AAAs up on stage with their boaters, which I know that's been a big deal. People, family and friends watching at home. So sounds like a new twist in the weigh-in process. We'll see how that goes. Sounds like it's going to be awesome.
That'd be great for the AAAs. And I'd like to also say, if no one's ever fished the U.S. Open, do it at least once in your life. Billy and you guys, his whole crew, they do a great job. I'm very disappointed I'm not there this year, but like I said, I'll see you guys next year. And maybe I'll see you at ceremonies on Wednesday.
Awesome, man. Yeah, come hang out. It's always a good time. A lot of money, a lot of prizes given away. Anybody who's out there, it's open to the public. I mean, it's Wednesday evening.
Yep.
At Boulder Station Casino. I think we usually get started 7 o'clock, somewhere around there Pacific
between
time.
7 and 8, just depends on.
Yeah, a lot of big.
It just depends.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll even get lucky and get done by 10.
Hey, yeah, a lot of big name pros, West Coast legends. So if you're interested, come hang out. Those guys are always up to take a pic, sign an autograph, get to know some of those guys. Very, very accessible to the public. So, by all means, come out to the award show and check it out, or head out to Colville Bay to the weigh-in.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy the day.
All right, thanks. You too.
Yeah, Todd's fished this thing a few times.
Yeah, and that's a great point,
I was surprised to see his name come up on instant feedback.
Yeah, great point. Billy said, schedule's already out for the next 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you have not done this before, at least sign up as a AAA. It's a really cool experience, and I mean, man, the amount of money, prizes, merch, swag, everything you get have the opportunity to win as a AAA is a big deal. Not to mention, you're probably going to get, to fish with somebody that you're going to learn something from. So, very, very cool opportunity.
Mark, I just heard from James Niggemeyer. He's going to be able to join us at so it'll be 10:15 our time. So, just wanted to let you know that, and I'm texting him the number right now so that he can call us.
Yeah, James Niggemeyer, FLW Touring Pro. James has fished the U.S. Open several times, so will be able to give us some insight on, his experience fishing the Open, whether he's talked to any of his pals that are out here fishing it, and what his take is on this year's One Bass U.S. Open.
So we've had a couple of questions on the instant feedback I saw while you were scrolling there, Dave. The the weather's interesting. That's a question that people have brought up. Typically, out here in the West Coast, when things slick off like this, you got to go light. And I think, we talked about the power fishing deal. I think you may find power fishing play a little bit, day 2, day 3 kind of thing after things have settled out a little bit, because this is the second day after the front. Today is. So, people are going to catch things on reaction baits, but I would still think that they're going to have to go finesse. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Oh, man. I tend to agree that there are going to be a lot of guys that have that mindset that just go finesse, but you always hear out here, year after year, if there's any vegetation, submerged vegetation, that grass, that height did so well, Justin Patty did so well on a few years back. If there's any of that, those guys are the best in the world at causing a reaction bite.
Without a doubt.
Ripping a bladed jig out of it, different things like that. So you'll have guys that probably mainly power fish, but like you mentioned, the having that AAA in the back to keep them honest with the finesse technique behind that will be crucial. Another thing we always hear about out here are the shade lines, the shaded pockets, the top water, the things like that. I think you'll still have guys doing that. They're just running those shade lines, trying to get a reaction bite doing that.
Growing up out here and beginning my fishing stuff out here, you wouldn't believe on these deep, clear lakes. I mean, I've caught the deepest fish I've ever caught personally was 123 feet. Caught a spotted bass at Shasta on that. But most of the time the fish are suspended. And when they do suspend, you get those shade lines in the middle of the day. You might have a bridge piling that's 100 feet, 100 yards away from you, but you're fishing the shade line out here in the middle of the river, and you might be throwing a topwater bait or a jerk bait. You may be swimming a grub through there, letting a drop shot pendulum. But the shade line is the structure that you're fishing. And here with the steep canyon walls and everything, that stuff can totally play into it.
Yeah, our buddy Russell on Instant Feedback said that they were right about the harvest moon. He said he just stays home after a harvest moon.
Oh, hey. Where's Russell live?
Russell, where are you at? Well, these guys did not have the option to stay home.
No.
After the harvest moon. They paid their entry fee and they're out there fishing. But Aaron was definitely spun out about the harvest moon, man.
And what was funny was watching Leslie in here as he was going through that stuff. And Mark, I tried to get him to maybe we could, you text me an update or something, and Leslie goes, he's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. No, I knew he wouldn't, but hey,
Russell's in Ventura.
Okay. So Russell, on your harvest moon, do the crops grow better? Is that you're able to gather your wheat? No, you're right. Full moons in general, if you go to, if you're fishing the California Delta or you're fishing actually anywhere, a lot of times a full moon in general will create a situation where you have to create more of a reaction bite the morning after a full moon, and you'll struggle through the day a little bit unless you're just getting a fish here or there on a reaction type bite because they fed all night. Now the harvest moon is a bigger moon, and it creates more gravitational pull.
And for as many anglers that buy into all that, there's as many that tell you none of that makes any difference whatsoever. Like solar and lunar tables and all that stuff. I mean, you got a lot of guys that live and die by that stuff, and they really believe it. And then a lot of them are like, man, it just, it's just another factor that I need to take out of my thought process.
If you're a tournament fisherman, you don't really get to say I don't want to go fishing today. So why put something into your mind that's going to take you out of the game initially?
Right.
So just get up, fish the conditions, do your practice that you're going to do, but keep an open mind at some point.
Which, I know we were kind of joking around about Aaron being out here practicing for so long earlier, but that is two different mindsets. I mean, a lot of times in the formats and the tournament trails these guys fish on a higher level, they are not allowed the time to practice. They're 2.5 days probably, and that's their practice period.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that somebody like Aaron that has been fishing for that way for so long, having that 2.5 days,
and who has so much experience on this lake,
yes, would come out and spend an enormous amount of time on mead. I think his thought process there is, A, he enjoys it. He was really ready to get back out west and spend some time out there in his element. But B, refamiliarizing yourself with a fishery like mead, because things change on mead. So be interesting, versus somebody like, let's say, a Luke Clausen a few years ago. He shows up literally with his suitcase full of tackle, borrowed boat, and fishes out of a suitcase as a tackle box and cracks I think a top 20 for sure on that one.
It was a top 10 actually.
Yeah, okay, top 10. I mean, so it'd be interesting to get some feedback from some of the guys as this tournament progresses on the amount of time they practiced versus the success they had during the tournament. I think that would be interesting to me to find out that.
Well, I asked Clausen yesterday when we interviewed him in the on our pre-show, and he doesn't like practice. I mean,
and some guys don't.
And I'll be honest with you. You've seen all the things over the years, and again, I don't make a living as a professional angler, but I've seen this game played for so long, and I fish tournaments on my own. If I've got too much of a game plan in mind, a lot of times I'm not open to what changes as the day goes on, and I can almost. You got to put your work in, do your map study, find out the things you got to do, but it can be detrimental if you get too locked in. If you're a person that can stay, okay, this is the starting point, but I need to stay open mind, and you kind of have a cut and run spot in your head of it's not working, and you need to make adjustments at that point, that's fine. But if you're not that kind of person, keeping notes and going back and looking at notes. I've done it. I've tried it, where you keep notes on something that happened specifically, and you look at a date and you write down the conditions, and then you go back and try it. And I think if you're too locked in, it can completely upend you. The best thing about the guys that fish on the national level is that most of the time they just vacate their mind about a body of water and go start fresh, and are able to stay fresh as the tournament wears on. And that's the guys that keep finding fish, and they keep being consistent. They keep being successful because they're able to do that.
Yeah, speaking of shifting your focus, FLW Pro Brad Hallman comes out here, fished last year, absolutely loved it, had a great tournament. Comes out, practices, and jumps on a flight to the OU Texas game during practice.
I would have too.
Watches the OU Texas game, watches his Sooners get a win, then heads back to Lake Mead for the U.S. Open. How cool is that, Mark?
Mark, we just got to say it, dude. I'm sorry.
How cool is that? The guy's like,
taunting.
Not going to watch it from Vegas, going to skip a day of practice, head to the Cotton Bowl, watch OU Texas. So that's a pretty cool story.
Love Bradley Hellman, if for nothing else, that.
Hey, right now he's on cloud 9, man.
So am I.
He's got the momentum. His team won.
Yep.
Brad's fishing good, coming off a really good event at Grand Lake for the Costa Series, a lake he's very familiar with. And that's another guy, we were talking about finesse. That guy's not finessing out here.
No, he's not gonna.
Flipping, buzzbait, power game.
I loved the video that he sent us. Mark, did you get that video last year? Right after he stayed out here with his wife, and they fished, and they went out there, and he catches a 5-pounder out of the middle of a drain. He's like, I guess I should have looked at this before.
Yeah, Russell's chiming in. He wants to know what weight do we think will be leading day one. It's always hard to say, Russell. There are 15 to 17 pound bags out there swimming, but I would. My guess would be somewhere in the mid to high 13s. I think is probably going to be leading it on day one.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I'd say between 12. I think a range for looking at 12 to 14 pounds.
Dude, this is Vegas. What are we? You got to be more specific than that.
No, I don't. I have to bet odds.
And so Dano's saying somewhere between these 2 pounds.
I'm saying somewhere between 0 and 20 pounds is going to be.
No, last year Billy Egan and I had a friendly wager. I think it was I don't know if it was a 18 or 20 pound. I forget what.
I remember that.
What? I never got paid, by the way.
Billy.
So, Billy, you still owe me a cheeseburger or something, man.
Wasn't it an In-N-Out deal?
It was an In-N-Out, I think. Yeah, but anyway.
We'll just bill it to him this year twice.
Man, I'm not seeing 20-pound bags this year. I didn't see him last year. I don't think we're seeing him this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when 11 pounds a day has been the magic number in this tournament for years.
Absolutely, man. If anybody can get 11 and a half to 12 pounds a day consistently, you're probably walking home with the hardware, towing that boat, and depositing in that $100,000 somewhere.
Yeah, I think if somebody told me, Dan, you paid your entry fees, we will give you 33 pounds and you don't have to go out and fish.
Oh,
I'm in.
Yeah, you're.
I'll take it.
You're sitting with your feet up, man. I mean, it is that type of fishery. It's very hard to duplicate what you've done day to day on over the 3 days. I think it will be even harder this year with the expansive field. I've heard a lot of stuff from guys like, man, it's a lot of boats. Man, it's a lot of boats. Yes, Lake Mead is big, but it tends to fish small.
Oh yeah, I mean think about was it 2 years ago that Justin Patty won?
Mm-hmm.
And what did we have? We had 12 boats in a quarter-mile stretch on one string
on the
of
little
grass,
submerged vegetation,
and it was a line of grass, a grass edge, and Justin, I mean, half the top 10 was in that area.
Yeah, one of the guys in that area, Brett Height,
he was on the opposite side of the lake, but
saw him coming in yesterday. Of course, he gave me a vintage Brett Height greeting.
You're number one.
Yeah, I'm number one. But I asked him, hey, how's it fishing? And he was not too optimistic about what he had seen. Of course, Brett's got a lot of good history here. And
maybe that works out for Brett.
Yeah, just fishes. He is a guy who fishes the moment.
Who did Dean pay to get his son paired with Bub Tosh?
So, yeah.
Last year's winner gets paired with Dean Rojas's kid.
Dean Rojas's son, Austin, fishing as a AAA in the U.S. Open.
We need to sequester Austin after this day.
Fishing as a AAA for the first time in the U.S. Open. His day one draw was last year's champion, Mr. Bub Tosh.
And Bubbles told Ish, it's over. That was your practice. He said, it's over.
So, and Austin can catch him. Austin, obviously growing up fishing with Dean and fishing with a lot of different fishermen out at Lake Havasu, does really good in team tournaments out there. And a young guy, really hungry for knowledge about fishing, very passionate about it, which is what it takes. And, he's used to fishing those team formats, working together with a partner. So that could be a really, really cool deal for him and Bub to get out there today.
I would say that from the professional angler that he's used to fishing with to the angler that he's going to be fishing with today, it's going to be a big cultural switch.
Total opposite. You're saying Dean and Bub Tosh, a little different ends of the spectrum.
If there's anything you can say about Dean Rojas, is he's a professional. He handles himself in that manner all the time. Very, very classy, does his job, and Bub Tosh is Bub Tosh. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, and that's the beauty, one of the beautiful things about the U.S. Open, man. I mean,
Austin might need counseling after this.
We'll ask him about that afterwards.
That would be a good question.
Great thing about the U.S. Open as a AAA, man, like Dano hit it on the head. I mean, you're used to fishing with somebody who has a certain style, a certain just a way they go about things. You get thrown in the boat with somebody like a Bub Tosh who,
style
is completely different. You can take elements from all of that and, kind of perfect your own style and see like, man, this is something different than who I usually fish with might have done, but it worked.
Some of my favorite tournaments, I mean, I'll give you a story real quick. Clear Lake, I was fishing an old tournament circuit in Northern California that's not there anymore, and I'm fishing the whole thing, 7 tournaments, 4 in the spring, 2 or 3 in the fall, whatever the breakdown was. But I was in I think I was in 7th place in the Angler of the Year points going into the last spring tournament, And
were there 7 anglers fishing it?
No, there was 100 and something. I mean, it was legit. Yeah, but my track record probably there was 10. But you know, I knew the guys that followed the whole thing, and you get kind of like, oh, these guys are pros. And I standing there at the pairing on the morning of the Clear Lake tournament, and I get paired with this guy. I'm standing next to the pro partner that I signed up with, who was actually leading the Angler of the Year standings on that pro side, and I get paired with this guy, and I said, man, I get paired with some local yokel. Golly, I'm gonna get stuck with geez, my whole thing is done. And I got given a lesson on frog fishing around the spawn that day by a guy named Charlie Almassi. I'll never second guess who I get paired with again, ever. I don't care if I get into a 14-foot sea arc, because you never know. That guy's fishing the tournament for some reason.
That's the cool thing about it, man, is any type of pro-am event that it's a random draw. I mean, you can always learn something from fishing with somebody. It could be the wrong thing. It could be, hey, man, this, I learned what not to do. And sometimes that is as important or more important than learning what to do. But if you have an open mind, you can learn something from any angler you get in the boat with.
Yeah, I drew Bobby Barrick on the California Delta, and that's like, people pay $500 to $700 a day to go fish with Bobby Barrick on a guide trip, and I did it for a $100 entry fee, and learned a bunch from him. I mean, this format is so cool because they don't want to hide anything from you. You're helping. I mean, look at that, $164,000. There's the big check sitting over there that's $100,000 on it, and then there's a boat attached with it. They want you to catch a bass.
Now you're getting all the juice.
Yeah,
nobody's holding them back.
Nope, not at all. I mean, it's good stuff. There's a bunch of new names in this that we haven't seen before. Not a bunch, but there's enough that we haven't seen. I mean, this tournament's bringing them out, but they're still, you've got your stalwarts.
Did it surprise you? I gotta admit, man, I understand, the entry fee versus the payout. It was awesome this year.
Oh yeah.
But I was a little surprised on how quick it filled up.
Yeah. Well, part of it, and give Billy and One Bass some credit.
Sure. They
did a deposit situation instead of having to pay for the whole thing up front, because $1,500 is a lot of money. But it's the U.S. Open, and I think it was a $250 deposit or whatever. So yeah, it filled up real quick. But there were guys that usually fish this tournament that said, I'm going to fish the U.S. Open, and you had telling them it's full. And they were surprised because they didn't know that it was going live at the moment or something, and it filled up in days. I mean, normally they're grinding to try to, get as many as they can up till the last minute. But
I've been scrolling through the pairings, Mark, and I finally found him. We saw him last night on the way in, as we always do. Your favorite U.S. Open angler, Mr. Johnny Johnson.
He's the man. Yeah. Have you watched any of his shows, Mark? Have you taken?
Oh yeah, yeah. After we had him on BTL, I had to check out some of his stuff. He's awesome.
For those of you that don't know, when Mark and I, when we first, what is this, the eighth or ninth year?
This is the eighth
year.
Yeah.
One of our first introductions to the U.S. Open, I remember it like it was yesterday. We pull up and we see this truck wrapped, and it's just got this giant caricature of a face on it. And Mark and I were both mesmerized, just drawn to it like a magnet. It was none other than Mr. Johnny Johnson, and that was my first introduction to Johnny Johnson.
Dude,
and
he's awesome.
Ever since then, Mark and I have just been huge Johnny Johnson fans. I mean, I find myself, following him on social media. Good friends with Josh Bertrand. Josh and I always talk about him. I think Josh just did a show with him.
He does usually.
But always about the Johnny Johnson. I got a funny Johnny Johnson story for you.
Love it.
We were at I was at the inaugural Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour event at Lake Toho.
Mm-hmm.
Staying with a few different pros, doing some media stuff, and one of the anglers was kind of running behind with getting everything together and was getting his boat wrapped, like kind of on the spot. Have to have the boat wrap ready, right?
Yeah.
So we got a local guy from Florida to do his boat wrap. had a couple of issues with it, so the guy came back over to the house that evening to kind of straighten things up, make sure everything was good to go. He brought with him his fiance, and I mean, this girl probably in her mid-20s, something like that. And she was, both of them fish, really super stoked about the BPT, everything being there. Okay, so they were talking about all the people looking at the field, and she's like, I'm really disappointed. And I said, well, what are you disappointed about? You get to meet all these professional anglers. Johnny Johnson isn't here. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, I'm from, I don't know, she's from somewhere out west,
That's funny.
and her and her dad, they used to fish, and they always watched Johnny Johnson's show. And her biggest disappointment, I mean, you got Kevin Van Dam, Skeet Reese, Mike, whoever, and she's disappointed that Johnny Johnson wasn't there. So what that tells you, folks, is the Johnny Johnson brand is worldwide.
It's a machine.
It is a machine. But man, he got it done a few years back.
He did. That was really cool. Genuine excitement. These guys, when they fish for a living, it does become a job. Don't get me wrong. Every single one of them loves to win, but when you see a guy win a tournament like this that he has chased his whole career.
Mark, I'm just looking down here, man. Your buddy Sheldon Collins, he's in it. Oklahoma. Unless it's a different Sheldon Collins, which that seems like it'd be an odd name.
Yeah,
Sheldon
I had no idea.
Yeah, Oklahoma guy.
I mean, think about that for a minute. 8 years ago, we pulled this whole thing together on duct tape and baling wire in the last minute. And here you are dragging people in from across the country now to fish this tournament. And
he was in junior high 8 years ago.
Seriously?
I think he was.
Wow.
He was in 8th grade or something.
Well, if that's him, he's here now.
That's pretty cool for you guys that watch BTL. Mark and Matt are talk about Sheldon Collins a decent amount. They've had some fiery debates on that subject. But out here fishing the U.S. Open, man. I mean, when you really think about it, I mean, Hallman said it the other day on the show. It's not that far from the middle of the country.
No, it's not.
It's not any further. It's actually less
than
time
Florida
to get out here for those guys to go to Florida or upstate New York. A lot of the places that other tours go, and like we were talking about, man, the cost reward is phenomenal for this event.
The biggest issue that people have when they come out here is you start looking at fuel prices. And that adds something to it. So when you start looking at paybacks, and you're going to get, $2,500 or $3,000 if you cash a late check, but it costs you double in fuel to get out here. That's the biggest difficulty. But my goodness, it isn't that far. And I don't know about you guys. When you start covering tournaments and you live out in the area that we live at, driving 10 hours. 11 hours is really kind of standard. Yeah, it's kind of, I can do that pretty easily at this point.
I don't know, man. The older I get, it's getting harder to fly 4 hours.
It does. Well, 4 hours turns into 8 because you're sitting in an airport.
Yeah, I think we have James.
Do we?
I don't know. Let's see. James, you there, man?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's going on, James?
How are you, Mark?
Oh.
I'm doing good, man. I'm just punching buttons.
Was that Dano that asked me how I was?
No, that was Dave Rush.
Hey, Russ. Hey, guys.
We got all kinds of people on here, man.
Hey, we're
nice.
So, James, you're out there at home in Texas, right?
Correct.
Are you on a guide trip?
No, not today. Actually, I'm headed down to a small local lake and going to try to, before the storm comes in, try to shoot a little YouTube video.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, James has started a YouTube channel. He's doing some pretty good stuff. James Niggemeyer Fishing, correct? Is that what it is?
That's what it is, yes.
So, guys, subscribe to that. James is a great communicator, came from the West Coast, understands the finesse style of fishing, can teach a lot of techniques, but then, he's a power fisherman. And no, he's not the James Niggemeyer, the cop that shot, what was his name, Dimebag Darrell, is that what it was?
Dimebag Daryl. Yeah, that's not me.
James, you fished this tournament several times throughout your life. We've discussed what the U.S. Open means to the West Coast, but just give me some thoughts on the U.S. Open in general, the style of fishing. Now that you've fished out west or out nationally, what changes you would make, what things you would do differently to adapt to fishing this style if you came back out here?
Well, I've only fished it twice, actually. I think I fished it early 2000s and then again in 2004, and both times it was in the summer time frame, I think July, August, somewhere right in there. And then I've never fished it this time of year, but obviously there's some different things that I would think to consider. Obviously the shad being shallower and just that whole fall seasonal pattern that could possibly happen. But also with the water so clear, I mean, generally speaking, a guy could catch them out, in deeper water, or they could catch them shallow. But it looks like the last couple of years that they've had this event this time of year, it's been a shallow deal. So I would expect it to be that way. Lake Meads is one of those few places that you get to go across the whole country where you wish your trolling motor was maybe 3 or 4 times as powerful as it is, just because you got to cover so much water. And then I'd love to have maybe a 12 or 13 to 1 gear ratio reel, especially during the practice period, where it just seems like you could cover like 2 miles of bank and you just feel like you haven't even scratched the surface on that place. And of course, I've not seen it with the water this level that it is currently down like it is, but I still imagine Lake Mead's just giant, and it always seems like finding a needle in a haystack, and it seems like you run and go and go and go, and it seems like there's no fish in the lake, and then you pull into a little section, a stretch, a point, maybe a reef, or even the back of a little small creek, and there they are. They're all in there. So covering water would be the key, as much water as humanly possible. I can remember seeing Aaron Martins on the bow of his boat. This is many, many, many years ago, way before bass days and different things like that coming out west. But Carol was driving the outboard, and Aaron was throwing off the bow just so they could cover just as much water as they can, because there is, like I say, there's a lot of dead water, and it's the key is just finding those areas. It's really, you're looking for that desert oasis on the water, and that's to me, that's the key there. I don't know how guys like Aaron slow down and find those deeper fish and stuff like that, just because there's just so much of it. There's so many points, so much structural elements down below. But covering water would definitely be the key, and I think reaction baits, spinner baits, top waters, just the same as the Open was contested in the fall. Your power fishing type stuff would really be, even cranking and bladed jigs. I think Height almost won it on a bladed jig, and so there's a lot of different things that I would definitely try my moving horizontal type baits for sure.
James, this is Dave here. So it sounds like to me that, obviously the key is always finding the fish, but you mentioned something that kind of struck my attention. Was you were talking about the underwater features. Obviously the lake level changes those type of things and the accessibility, but from what you remember about Lake Mead and your experiences talking to guys about it, do the same typical areas hold fish, or are these fish kind of more nomadic and do they just move around following the bait?
Yes to both of those things. I really feel like, season after season, year after year, there's maybe 5 major areas. I think definitely the Temple Bar area, the Greg's Basin, the Overton, and then obviously Vegas Wash and the Colville Bay area. Those types of areas really continually, they kick out fish year after year after year, because obviously they have the ability to, they're set up so that fish can really habitate those areas, and year after year they just always are there. But that's a place where the water's so clear and the fish don't have any problem suspending and just being, free swimming nomadic fish. They just literally go anywhere, and so a guy could really find a place that it's like no one's ever seen before, or the fish just set up in a specific right little area and they're chasing bait, or for whatever reason. I can remember John Murray telling a story of, catching one fish, and then like a school of 50 or 100 2 to 3 pounders follow that fish to the boat, and he literally just caught him beneath his boat because the shade of his boat basically was the new structure, and those fish were just hanging out underneath the boat, and he would just drop below the boat, and he would just catch them. So there's a definite population of fish in that lake that just free swim, and they're more pelagic like you would in the ocean.
James, you spend your life, and you have for the last dozen years or so, you get 3 days of practice to put something together, 2.5 in some instances. How would you, if you came back out here, you'd have very little pre-fish restriction. How would you kind of incorporate, or would you expand what you were doing on a practice level? It's a discussion that Dave and I had earlier. On a body of water this big that can be, like you said, a needle in a haystack, how would you do things differently, or would you kind of try to keep the same approach that you've learned over the last dozen years?
Yeah, I think as fishermen, we're always changing and trying to adapt to new things. And I think the thing for me is, and I keep stressing it to myself as I'm my own coach naturally, but just being able to cover water as much, just push myself to cover water. And I think nowhere is it more clear than on that place. I mean, you really have to cover water till you find the bait or find the habitat, maybe grass in the backs of pockets or different things like that where there's bluegill or just different things like that. But covering the water to be able to find the areas that have fish, because there's so much dead water. I think that's one of those places where that old adage of 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water, it seems like Lake Mead's that place. So I think covering water, power fishing, moving a lot of, I probably would just push myself to move more water, pull more water, run more bank, those types of things, because of that same thing that I'm keep talking about, but also being able to play the conditions. I mean, if you see a ripple on the water, a little chop on the other side, taking advantage of the idea that some fish might migrate to that other side where bait might be stacked up on a little side of a point or something like that, and taking advantage of the broken surface clarity so that you can catch some fish on a power bait or a reaction type bait, and taking advantage of the conditions as well.
James, that kind of brings me to my next point. I mean, on clear water fisheries, us as anglers have kind of always been taught, the wind is your friend, and it seems in years past that the wind has really played a factor out here at the U.S. Open, allowing guys to kind of jump from behind with bigger bags, kind of taking advantage of those conditions you spoke of. The extended forecast out here this year, it looks like it's going to be very little wind, kind of slick, calm conditions. Do you think that makes it a lot harder for guys to maybe come from behind with bigger bags this year, and consistency is going to be the key?
Yeah, consistency is almost always the key. Probably, I would say, just guessing that if you have that, just what I like to call West Coast conditions, where the conditions just stay the same, everything's just pleasant and nice. Historically, it just nothing quite changes, like the weather kind of east of, say, Oklahoma and towards the East Coast. The Western United States, it just always stays so consistent. And I think without having a changing condition or wind or different things like that, it will be a little more difficult to have one of those giant bags, unless a guy really finds something special. But I still don't think that you could. I mean, a giant bag is a 4-pounder plus limit of 2s, so it's still totally possible, regardless of whether the conditions don't play to the anglers, strong suits or not. I think guys can still really move in on the last day, and that's I think that's probably one of the best things about that event is you're really never out of it, unless you're not weighing those 5 fish every day and catch. You just want to put yourself in position to where if you catch that 4-pounder, and they're in there, and there's probably more of them than people realize. I've heard over the last few years that guys have caught 8, 9, and even 10-pounders out there. So things have changed a lot since the days that I used to fish that place, and nobody's really ever out of it. Probably harder road to hoe, but definitely the possibility of catching a nice limit with a big 3 or 4-pounder make a big difference.
If you were fishing this tournament and knowing a little, some of the history you have on Mead, what would be the ideal conditions for you to go out there? If you could have you get to custom order your fishing day, what would that be?
custom order would be leaning really heavily on top water baits. I would really, walk-in type baits, buzz baits, those types of things. Something where I could continue to just put a bait out there that's going to get me a little bit better than average size fish. The whole time, not knowing that I'm not going to get maybe more than 5 to 8 bites a day. That would be the ideal scenario for me. But I understand with 250 participants, pros or boaters, but notwithstanding the co-anglers that are going to be out there too, that type of bite might be a little bit harder to pull because, after practice and a lot of fish have been stuck and the pressure of guys fishing day after day after day, that bite might be a little bit harder to do, but I think it could emerge at any minute. I think that would be the thing that I would really focus on, just because I would be confident in that type of a presentation and know that I still have an opportunity to win, because I really feel like those bigger fish will eat those top water baits.
How would you pair that, your partner? If you're going to throw, like a sexy dog or something all day long, what would you have your partner, your AAA partner? Because every fish he catch counts for you, and it makes a difference. How would you run that deal as a team?
So in 2004, that's how we caught our fish every day. I pretty much threw a walking bait every day, a topwater bait, and my partner, the last day, he was throwing a spinnerbait behind me, and I kind of mixed up a spinnerbait in there too. And then also, if I got bit out there, he'd fire in with a drop shot and be able to snipe a couple of those extra fish. Usually there's 1 or 2 or 3 following, little small wolf packs. I think that's key, and vice versa. If he hooked up, I'd throw over there kind of a 1, 2, 3 punch. And sometimes you just get in an area where those fish don't want to break the surface, so a spinnerbait can be really good, and you kind of have to play that by ear. But having a drop shot ready, or a small Texas rig, or a shaky head, something to throw in on those fish that are there, that they really don't show themselves, but they're in and around those areas. Generally, they're not loners, but you can get on a loner bite, but there's usually a little wolf pack, and that's how I think I'd kind of try to take advantage of the idea that we're sharing our weights.
Final question for you, James. One area of the lake that you could fish, you can only fish that right now. You're coming out, you got the chance to fish the U.S. Open. You heard yesterday someone got you in the tournament. You're going to show up and fish on that day. What area of the lake would that be? And then finally, what would the U.S. Open Championship mean to you?
I really like, oh man, there's so many great areas on that lake.
One.
I've done well in a couple places, but I would say maybe Overton, even though that's obviously a place that gets just pounded, and historically that's been a place where a lot of guys in the top 10 are fishing. But I really feel like something about, I believe that's the Muddy River that flows in the back there, or is it the Virgin? One of the 2 rivers, I can't remember the name, but I think that's where all those nutrients come in. Just seems like the fish just grow a little bit bigger over there. They're just a little more healthier. I feel like that would be a place that I'd want to fish. And what would the U.S. Open mean? I mean, that's an event that, in the world of bass fishing, it means so much to the anglers. That's an event where, when you win that one, you've really fished an incredible tournament, because trying to stay consistent on that body of water is probably one of the biggest challenges. You can't stub your toe ever, and when you finally find yourself in position to actually have be able to produce that big bag when it counts, usually the second or third day, that's when that seems like the guys that lead after one day don't generally win, but the guys that get stronger as the event goes on, that'd be the key. I think, to me, to win the U.S. Open as a guy that grew up in Southern California, that would be huge. Was definitely treasured.
Well, James, thanks for spending some time with us. We know you're going to go out there and do some work. You're going to put a video together. We look forward to seeing what you get out of your session today.
Well, I thank you guys for having me on. I really wished I was out there fishing it this year, but right before it was announced, it filled up so quick, and then some spots opened up, and I actually sold my boat. So I wasn't going to take my Ranger 188 all the way to Nevada to fish the U.S. Open out of. So I decided to pulled out of this one, but maybe next year.
Well, we look forward to it. We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And thanks again, James.
Thank you.
Some great insight there, man.
James Niggemeyer. He's a good one. All right, guys. We'll be back for one more segment, and Dave and I will pull magic out of thin air with Mark Jeffries over there on the Wheels of Steel.
What's the difference between Seagar and other fishing lines?
The difference is innovation.
Exceptional strength.
It's easier casting.
It's consistency. Spool after spool, cast after cast. It's a commitment to lines that are always the best.
For every angler, Seagar is always the best.
All right, Dave, we're back.
We're back, man. Still checking out this pairings. Flight 1 checking in at 2 p.m.
Yep.
And the final flight checking in at
like tomorrow
4:15. That is a folks, this is going to be a marathon of a weigh-in. Largest field in US Open history. I think the system that Billy is going to try to use this year will make things go smoothly, but 2 o'clock, 4:15, so that's a lot of people to weigh in.
What is that, 25 boats per flight? Is that what it is, or 20?
I don't know. You're making me do math,
Well, dude, you're the brains. I'm just the beauty.
Time to wrap it up.
Oh, Mark's pulling the plug on us.
Wow. Yeah, 20.
So, yeah, I mean, it's...
give or take. I'm sure there's probably some that are...
yeah,
a little different.
Well, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna get things set up there at the weigh-in at Colville Bay Marina. We will be live from the tent at 2 o'clock.
It's a structure.
It's a tent.
It's not a tent. It's a permanent structure. Don't short sell Colville Bay.
No, I'm saying it, dude. It's cool, but they just wrap it in canvas when they need to. We may not need to this year.
It's 2 o'clock, man. 2 o'clock's the
weigh-in. No winds.
2 o'clock Pacific 2 o'clock
time. Come back and hang out with us. Watch the weigh-in. We'll have everything going good. Billy's gonna say, brought to you by Bass Cat and Mercury about 70 times an hour, and that's a good thing.
Is it a bad thing when you're getting emails about senior living facilities?
It is. I'm like 2 years away.
Yeah, I mean, man.
If I could only be like Mark Jeffries when I'm his age.
Nah, 2 o'clock, guys. Watch your friends, family, mortal enemies, whoever. We'll be there.
We'll be back with the 2019 One Bass U.S. Open, brought to you by Bass Cat, Mercury, Bridgeford Foods, and Life Source at 2 o'clock. See you this afternoon from Colville Bay Marina.